Thousands of participants at this year's Young African Leaders Summit in Washington cheered U.S. President Barack Obama on the eve of his 55th birthday Wednesday. Obama launched the Young African Leaders Initiative 6 years ago to support the emerging generation of young African entrepreneurs, activists, and public officials. The president told the excited crowd that despite the enormous challenges facing sub-Saharan Africa, he sees a continent on the move.
You have one of the world's fastest growing regions, home to a middle class that is projected to grow to over 1 billion consumers. You are more connected by technology and smartphones than ever before, as I can see here today. Africa is sending more of its children to school. You're saving more lives from HIV/AIDS and infant mortality. And while there's still more work to do to address these challenges, today's Africa is a place of unprecedented prosperity and opportunity.
The president announced new support for the Millennium Challenge Corporation, the U.S. African Development Foundation, and the Citi Foundation to provide Africans with grants and professional opportunities. More than 40,000 people applied to become Mandela Washington Fellows as part of the Young African Leaders Initiative this year. The biggest class yet, more than double the size of previous years. And with us today in the studio to talk about his experience in America is Emmanuel Odama, a Mandela Washington Fellow. Emmanuel, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much.
Well, the president described you as the greatest speaker he has seen in the last few days.
Thank you.
What was the moment like for you?
Well, I must say the moment was very exciting because when I received this news a few days before I was on stage yesterday, it's just been like, okay, what is this going to turn out like? But I'm so grateful that it went on well, and I'm so excited to have been part of what went on at Town Hall yesterday.
You know, I'm kind of taken aback by your choice. Why did you even think about becoming an agricultural scientist?
Well, previously I'd actually wanted to become a medical doctor. And my dream was to become a medical doctor, but things didn't work that way. I found myself in the path of agriculture, and I decided to go that way because coming from a background where the community was always engaged in agriculture to have their livelihoods on and on, I really now decided that that was the way I could be able to make a small impact and be able to give back to my community, especially given the fact that, I was paid to school by agricultural work. And so I felt, okay, let me just give back, reciprocate this through my engagement in agriculture.
So tell me, how do you think this fellowship is going to impact the farmers in Uganda?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that I'm going back to my country having had a lot of networks here. Now, when I talk about networks, I'm not necessarily talking about financial resources, but somebody somewhere is willing to share information on how to do some things better. Somebody somewhere is willing to link me to another person who is doing a similar thing. Somebody somewhere is working with young people, not only in Uganda, but any part of Africa, and is saying, hey, I know somebody who is doing a similar thing like you. Can we be able to network? There is going to be a web of communication which I am going to enjoy, which the farmers in Uganda are going to be exposed to, which probably would not have happened if this opportunity never came on board. And so I really want to leverage on any opportunities, any networks, any links I made to see how we can deliver better knowledge, infrastructure if possible, and even financial resources. Not only one way, but how can we be able to export some of the products which would come out of the Ugandan market or an African market.
And Emmanuel, you mentioned young people, and I'm just wondering, because most young people back in Africa and even here in the United States would rather take a white-collar job. How are you going to influence them to look elsewhere?
Absolutely. I really appreciate, because we are now in a time where farming is looked like as a punishment. The reason is, I went to school, if you're always late, you were given the hoe to go dig. If you did something bad, the punishment was always going to dig in the school garden. So most young people in Africa and many other parts of the world, by the way, look at farming as, okay, that punishment thing. But I'm really thinking that looking at somebody who is coming from an agricultural background, who has been able to make it in life, who has been able to come to such levels, should be able to be an instigator to that young person who thinks, oh, this is just a waste of time. And I really want to say this, that the agriculture we're looking at today is not just the one of picking the hoe. I work in agriculture, but seldom times have I picked a hoe. I mean, you can go into agricultural research. You can go into agricultural marketing. You can go into agricultural lobbying, and there's so much to do. So when we're talking about agriculture, it's not necessarily the one of picking the hoe. You can be an advocate, champion, in seeing that resources flow into Africa, which is going to be invested into the farming community.
Maybe in 30 seconds, your first priority when you go back to Uganda?
I want to let young people know there is an opportunity to apply for the Young African Leadership Initiative. Let them apply. I'm going to pass the word on so that they can also get exposed to some of the things I've been exposed to.
Emmanuel, thank you very much.
My great pleasure.
Emmanuel Odama is a Mandela Washington Fellow and a scientist with the National Agricultural Research Organization in Uganda.